Hello everybody. Only an hour ago I was hooning down this road in a TVR Cerberus, and now I'm driving something quite the opposite. This is a Mercedes E-Class. But of course, not just any E-Class, this is a 2010 E63. And not only that, this E63 has been converted to run on LPG. And so this is the very definition of a car where you may be able to have your cake and eat it too. You see, you can have your 520 horsepower engine and relatively sensible fuel economy. I say relatively sensible fuel economy. Those of you that know LPG will know that it actually technically worsens your MPG, but the fuel itself is so cheap that it does actually make up for it. This car's owner fitted the LPG system to the car when he got it, and in that time it has paid for itself. So all the miles he does from here on out are gonna be, well, not free, but certainly a lot cheaper than if he was running this car on the regular stuff. Now here's the thing about Mercs, and I've come to this realization in the last few months. I never used to like Mercs at all. I'm now a Mercedes owner, and the reason is quite simple. The bigger and more expensive a Mercedes is, the more sense it makes. I simply cannot come up with any justification whatsoever for anybody to buy an A-Class of any description. Certainly not an A45. My thoughts on those are very well documented. However, the C-Class, in particular the 63 AMG, is quite a bit better, and the S-Class is truly brilliant. In fact, easily the best, in my opinion, at what it does. Until today, I'd never driven an E, and I'm starting off with, well, possibly one of the most desirable. Now, the E63 of this generation car came in a couple of different variants. You had this, which has the old school 6.2 litre V8, despite the 6.3 litre badging being everywhere, and then this was replaced with a 5.5 litre bi-turbo engine. In theory, the bi-turbo is better in every measurable way. It's more power, more torque at lower RPM, more fuel efficient, etc, etc. But let's face it, if you've got even an ounce of petrol flowing through your veins, it's the big old naturally aspirated lump which is gonna get you going. But does it really make sense in a big old bus like this? Let's find out. And it certainly is a big old bus. It's long, it's wide, and the styling of it is, well, slabs. This is a car that looks like it was carved from a solid piece of metal. Sounds pretty pleasant too. Not ridiculously shouty, but just throaty enough. Throttle response is really good, and even just tickling it, it moves along. The road opens up in a little bit where I'll be able to push the car harder, but it's pretty promising. See, one of the things about this 6.2 that people that haven't driven one don't tend to appreciate is the fact that you do need to rev it to get the best from it. Us Europeans that are used to our small little 2 and 3 litre engines generally get the idea that with some big old V8 it's just going to be a big torque beast that doesn't need revving. Well, that's true of some of the American lumps, especially the pushrod items that have a couple of valves per cylinder and are designed for low-end torque. But something like this is designed to rev, and you can really tell. This one redlines over 7,000, which for a huge old V8 is mightily impressive. The 7-speed in this car is the same setup as in the C63. It's a bit of an oddity of a gearbox. You see, it is part traditional torque converter automatic and part not. It's missing the torque converter bit and instead replaces that with a wet clutch setup. Exactly what the benefit of that is, I don't know, but it drives more like you'd expect, say, a dual clutch car to. The shifts aren't as quick, they're sort of more automatic in feel, but it works okay. It's not brilliant, and it's not the quickest, but it is smooth. And in something like an E-Class, I think smooth is what you want. From the driver's seat, you can also feel the sheer scale of this thing. On a small, narrow road like this, it's a fair bit of effort to try and place it. but you can see a reasonable amount of the bonnet, which does help quite a bit. Visibility is also fairly decent thanks to the fact that there's a huge amount of glass in this thing. It's also a really nice place to be. This doesn't feel at all like an older car. Maybe the only bit that dates it is the steering wheel controls that look a little bit out of date. Other than that, I love these dials. They are so sexy. Yeah, you got a few buttons and things down here, but all in all, it feels like a really upmarket place. Like I was saying, the more money you spend on a Merc, the more sense it makes. And indeed, this car's original owner probably did spend a bit of money on it, because if nothing else, he specified the rear seat entertainment system, which tells you he probably had kids and he was happy to spend whatever it took to keep them occupied, because I've seen a few price lists. Those are not cheap. Not at all. You've got big panoramic sunroof here, and I do love a good sunroof. The car has an adjustable suspension. It's got Airmatic at the rear, but not the front. So we're currently in comfort mode, and just for research sake, I'm going to stick it in its Sport Plus mode, which, yeah, just makes the ride really, really stiff. You can feel absolutely everything, and I can understand why this car's owner would keep that off all the time, because it just doesn't make sense. I mean, the only circumstance in which you'd want to use that is if you took the car on maybe a really, really smooth autobahn, of which there aren't as many as people think, or a racetrack. And this is definitely not a natural car to take on a track. Now, it must be said that one thing that makes these cars quite lusty at the minute is the fact that they are relative bargains. I was checking through the classifieds last night, and examples of these are up from anything from about 16-17 grand. Whether they'd be one that you'd actually want to buy, I couldn't say, but the fact that they're out there does give us all hope. They really don't feel like a car that's that cheap where I'm sitting. In fact, one of the best things about this car is that when you are on a nice, beautiful road and you get a little bit of unexpected traffic, you can dial it back to comfort mode, you can chill out, you can relax, and you can enjoy the fact that this is a supremely quiet, comfortable, refined car. Yes, it's got that huge, thunderous V8 up the front, but when you don't want it to shout, it's quite happy to whisper. And as with any big, naturally aspirated lump, yes, it does its best work at the top end, but for normal driving, it's still got ample performance low down. Let's face it, this is one of those cars that's designed to be pretty much your one and only. If you can buy just one car, but you need something that is super practical, this is it. One of the benefits of that LPG system as well is that the way that it's been installed in this car does not steal anything whatsoever from the car's practicality. The tank has been fitted in the spare wheel recess, and so you haven't lost a single cubic centimetre of storage space, which is brilliant. When you ask her to pick up her skirt, she can. The gearbox is also quite a bit better when you're driving it a bit harder. You still got to remember the fact that you're piloting a 2-ton barge. It takes these lumps and bumps incredibly well. The steering is actually a bit sharper than you'd expect it to be. Now, the truth is that whatever you feed this car, it's going to drink it, and drink it fast. This is one of those cars that's learned at the Oliver Reed School of Thirst. It's much more agile than I expected it to be. You completely forget the fact that there's a lot of car behind you. For carving down these roads when you haven't got the oncoming traffic, so you're not quite as tight, it's mega. I expected the E63 to be fairly dull in comparison to the C, but actually it's not. This is quite a thing. I'm really quite taken by it. In fact, I'd kind of prepared a whole speech saying how, yeah, look, the 6.2 is a great engine, but in the E, really, the 5.5 is probably the better motor. And okay, maybe that's still true to some extent, but this is not lacking. Not at all. Oh, it just goes. What a wonderful thing. as is the tradition with many performance Mercedes, the issue you're going to come across first is that rear end. Merc, for whatever reason, just did not like fitting limited slip diffs to cars as standard. To get one, you need to option the performance pack to one of these. So if you want to buy one as a real performance car, I'd try and seek out one of those with it fitted, but as standard, it's not a bad car. Just be wary when you're in less than ideal conditions. Overall, I am very impressed with this Merc. I mean, I'm kind of glad that I own one now because I keep driving them and liking them and enjoying them. I'm never going to like the A45. I don't think that's ever going to happen. But the Big E really impressed me. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Please like, comment below, subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you all for the next one. Bye-bye.